our, well, again, take two, Abby. We'll put that even on recording so everyone knows the honest truth of how well we're doing here. Thank you everyone for joining us here on the H&H Connect platform. I'm excited today. If you don't know me, my name is Darrin Stern. I'm here today with the Craft Industry Alliance, and I'll let you introduce yourself. But we are kicking off a digital week of content and continued learning and continued networking and sourcing opportunities. Go ahead, Abby. Why don't you?
Yeah, welcome. So I'm Abby Glassenberg. I'm the co-founder of Craft Industry Alliance. We're the strategic partner for the show. And we are very excited to sort of do an overview of what went on, the trends that we saw, highlights for us, and all of that good stuff. So Darrin, do you want to just start by telling us like how many people were at the show this year and whether there was some growth there and maybe how many exhibitors as well, and sort of what that looked like in comparison to year one?
Yes, thank you very much for the question. So we do have a formal press release that is going to be pushed out later today. You should all see it. But we achieved every metrics was up and to the right. You couldn't have asked for a better experience coming into our second birthday, which is kind of just always an amazing thing to even say, like it's only our second show. This year's event, when we look at the number of attendees, we achieved 2,535 individuals joining us over the 3 days. So that's quite a tremendous growth. That's going to be upwards in the neighborhood of over 30% year over year between the two events. And it's across all of these sectors, whether you're talking quilt shops, yarn shops, brick and mortar, e-commerce, educators, designers, content creators, importers, distributors. It was just up and to the right. We were able to, we grew the number of exhibitors. We went from 196 in our first edition to 267 in this second edition. We had exhibitors from 22 different countries. We had attendance from 38 different countries. On top of that, we also were able to count all 50 states plus Puerto Rico as having people there at the show to connect and be together.
Absolutely. I know there was an exhibitor from, I think, Peru. I met people in my booth from South Africa, from New Zealand. So there are truly lots of Canadians. There truly were people from all over the world.
Absolutely. It just warms your heart to think that we are a connected world. We also are a connected show. We obviously have our big sister in Cologne, which is a little bit larger than us on all scales. But you can just see how the world does want to continue to get together and to connect, and more importantly, to find new innovative products and get top quality education in one condensed experience.
Right. So for me, one of the main themes that I heard from a lot of different people who I spoke with was that this show feels modern. I thought that was a really interesting comment. And to me, what that means is it feels like it's for today's business environment and for the way that our industry is working today. It feels inclusive and diverse. So inclusive in that we've got people who have businesses in all different ways within the craft industry. So we're not just looking at retailers, although of course retailers are really important at a trade show. And we're not just looking at manufacturers, although of course they're important at the trade show, but there's so many types of businesses. There were meetups at this show for designers. There were meetups at the show for tech editors. Out in the front hall where the registration was, we had a content creator pavilion. There were streamers in there who were streaming to Twitch. We had literally everybody all in one place and everybody feeling connected, and like their role in the industry is important, because it is. I mean, I went to the influencer event that took place on Tuesday afternoon, sponsored by Prime Publishing, and Lion Brand was there. They got up and gave a little talk about their products and how to collaborate with them. And they said to the influencers, you're what makes our industry run. And, you know, that is really nice to see that kind of acknowledgement that all of these different types of businesses really have an important role. And I think that is something that sets this trade show apart.
That, and I think also to the innovative format that our two organizations have collaborated to pull together, right? We offered master classes for long form, hands-on consulting level class work, real intimate, real detailed. There was a business section of classes that was also a little more lecture style, a little shorter form, typically 1 hour in length. But then you had a main stage program, which was quite often panel discussions right on the show floor, providing additional follow-up and additional thought leadership understanding. We introduced this year something new as our learning labs. So in medium-sized formats, 25 people per class. Pretty much every time I walked past, there was not an empty seat, where it was hands-on, physically learning a technique of one of the suppliers in the show or some of the products that you might find in the show. So you can really start to understand how you might do it if you're not familiar yourself, and or take things back to your store. And some of those were really neat because they were using cross medium, kind of using fabrics in a weaving idea, and using stitching and sewing, and just kind of bringing the different mediums together to show how a retailer can be more than just a yarn store.
Absolutely. And I feel like that's another really special part of this show, which is that we have all the different craft sectors together. And that's something I know we're hoping to expand going forward even further. But just to have all these quilting companies and all of these yarn companies together on the show floor, it was really inspiring and fresh, and also very different.
Beth, you want to go ahead, Abby.
Sorry, from this show, definitely a differentiator from this show to other shows. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting, just in talking with a couple of the exhibitors, for example, I spoke with Anne Wheel from Flax and Twine. Her booth was so busy. Every single time I walked by, you could barely get in it. She had a pretty small booth and there was a huge crowd in there. And Anne sells weaving projects, weaving kits and materials, but they're hand weaving and they're things you can make like for home decor, like baskets, bowls, things like that. And she told me that she sold a lot of kits to quilt shops. So you might think, oh, well, this is yarn. This is going to be, something that's for the fiber businesses. But for quilt shops, a kit that's hand weaving is the perfect thing. So she was really surprised by that. She wasn't expecting that, but it was great. I spoke to another exhibitor who has bag sewing, kind of quilted sewing bags, kits that she sells, and she sold a lot of them to yarn shops. And again, was surprised to see that. But a kit like that, where everything's included, is a great product for a yarn shop. And you may not know that until you get there, and then you start to get that feedback from retailers. So to me, bringing everybody together was great. And one of the other things that I thought was so awesome was deco art, right? I always associate deco art with kind of like, they sell paint and foil and things like that. Maybe they're a little bit more on the mixed media side of things, but they were doing a demo in their booth that was so beautiful. I don't know if you saw it, but it was like marbling on fabric, which was the brilliant demo to do at this show. So they had like a water marbling table. They sell these water marbling, like the fluid, and then they also sell the acrylics. And so they were doing that. And of course, marbling is so beautiful. And they had shoes that they had marbled there on display. And then they were just pulling them, from this kit. It was so pretty. And for me, like as a quilt shop owner, I would have been like, this is the perfect project, such a good addition. So even though they might be more on the mixed media side, it was, definitely appealing to other sorts of retailers that you might not have anticipated.
Absolutely. I mean, even because this probably can spend an hour on any one of these topics the things that took place. And the part you kind of alluded to, like the meetups and special events, there were like, I think when I just counted here a second ago, as my eyes, you see, scan down as I'm counting things here, over 17 different events over the 3 days, between events, as you said, Melissa Liebman's meetup for designers had 130 somewhat people wanting to attend that event, to the retail and designers meetup hosted by Creative Retailer and Moda Fabrics. That one maxed out the room at like 150 people coming to that event. You had even roundtable discussions on drop shipping in someone's booth, hosted by Arrow Furnishings, and book signings by Roseanne. Those were taking place, even a cosplay meetup, which was kind of meet the makers and trying to understand what cosplayers are looking for when they come to your stores. I'm going to look here to see if we can bring up a couple of photos of that cosplay.
Yeah.
I want to ask everyone, since you have Zoom here, you have the chat and you have the ability to kind of ask questions. Please do, or if you just want to provide feedback, we'll be glad to read that out and share that with everyone here.
Absolutely. And honestly, the cosplay was amazing. So there were mannequins all along the back that were dressed in these cosplay. They were cosplay that were sewn, that were knit, and that were crocheted, and they were stunning. And I got to talk to a few of the people who had made them. And there's so many nice things about this. First of all, it's completely mixed media. People, they're combining all different types of materials together to make cosplay. Second, they're young people, right? The two people who came by, they were a married couple. They actually met in cosplay, which is amazing. They made their own costumes for their wedding. So they got married in costume, and they had made some of the things that were on these mannequins. And, they're like in their early 20s. So it was really nice to see people coming to the show for the first time and feeling really welcome, and like their craft is really a legitimate part of this industry and is so inspiring and beautiful. So that was a really fun aspect that was this year. And I think we're going to definitely continue with cosplay in the future.
And they were just so genuinely excited to show their artwork to everyone, just to be invited to showcase what they do, and it's their business. The two that I had spoken with, they're costume designers. They work for the theater district here in Chicago. And for some of the movies that come through, they help on those things. One's also a professor at DePaul University in their fashion technology program, where they talk about the actual production of materials in different mediums. So it's just the genuine happiness, which was lovely to see.
Absolutely. I would love to talk about the State of the Industry panel. So this panel took place on Wednesday morning, right before the ribbon cutting and right before the show floor actually opened. So we had a wonderful panel of people from different sectors, different countries, sort of different parts of the industry, talking about what's happening in the industry, where we need to go, what needs to change, kind of challenging the norm. Do you know approximately how many people were there? It looked pretty full to me.
We had put out about 525 chairs, and there were people standing because there was no chairs.
Which was amazing. Made me a little nervous, but it was amazing. And one of the things that definitely stood out as a trend was crochet. And everybody was sort of talking about crochet. Crochet is a hot trend right now. It's something that, whether it's granny squares, people wanting to repurpose things, crochet is big. And we saw a lot of people with denim jackets with crochet panels on the back, full crochet outfits happening. So I know that was one of, I think it was Jan Hurwitz from Premier Needle Arts Barocco who brought up crochet as a trend during that panel.
Absolutely. I mean, the other trend, and I think one of the things that I was hoping we can get across in our overall programmatic feel of the show,
Turn that down a little bit
the idea of
Right.
the diversity
so I can hear this.
that makes up this industry, right? Like where we had obviously diverse products, quilting, sewing, crocheting, knitting, needlepoint, embroidery, and I'm probably insulting someone because I probably forgot one of the crafts that was out there. But then you also had from people, right? You had someone like the crochet boss who you interviewed on stage. Maurice Green, would you share a little bit about that experience and having the opportunity?
Absolutely. Before I do, I just also wanted to call out Kamaka Champion from Miss Pearl on the south side of Chicago. She has a yarn shop, and she really was amazing on the State of the Industry panel. Her comments, people came up to me the entire rest of the show, just praising her incredible comments. And she really is somebody who's not afraid to challenge the norm, and sort of pointed out that sometimes, yarn reps don't come to her store. She's the only store in the neighborhood where she is, and really how important it is for equity to be able to have shops in areas where currently there aren't any. So Kamaka was amazing. And I just really was in awe of everything that she said, and just so grateful that she was on our panel. And Maurice was also amazing in completely different ways. So Maurice, I took a picture with him. I'm 5'2". He is 6'7". So we look pretty funny in this picture, but he is somebody who crochets in order to kind of calm his mind in between mixed martial arts fighting. He's a professional fighter, and he loves to crochet. He's just a super crafty guy. So We were on stage together later that same day on Wednesday. He was crocheting the entire time, making a headband. He did not quite finish it while we were up there. I think he really wanted to, but he was about halfway through, because when he was talking about something important, he would put it aside and then come back to it. So, but I thought Maurice was great. And it was really nice to have somebody completely outside of the industry who is really almost like a consumer, but who is somebody for whom this industry really is meaningful in his life. And he, sells his hats and his headbands, and also just gives them away to the people that he knows. And he is really something else to talk to. I really enjoy talking to him.
Absolutely. As I'm debating, maybe I was going to bring up the row of photos and just kind of hit scroll on it, because it just gives I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it. Here we go. So you should be seeing my crazy crowded screen, but what's kind of fun in the way I'm going to show this thing, let's make this nice and big. So I've got a raw dump of photos from our photographer, and if I just hold down the scan button, it's almost like a movie as you watch it go past, because of the way he took his photos. But the genuine smiles on everyone's face as you kind of move through the show. It's just kind of mesmerizing. Yeah,
it's great. I'm so excited to pull out like a couple to feature, but also he just took so many. It's great. It's going to take us forever to go through them all, but this was great. And here you see the Learning Lab, which was new this year. And I think we're going to do some more expanded demo situations in the future too, after talking to a bunch of exhibitors about what they want to see for the future. That's Loopy Mango.
Yep, this was from from the Fashion Boulevard.
Yeah.
So we do a nice static display. It's almost like stop animation here, as these kind of flip through as you watch people kind of slowly walk through the place.
Bibilex.
Yep, here's
Maurice. So you can see he's crocheting away. He was like working really hard, but then he was talking too. So we did not quite finish the headbands, but he was pretty great.
And for folks that hopefully you've seen it on Instagram, I know a lot of people stop to take a picture while they're on stage.
This was awesome.
Yes.
This is London Kai. So she used both fabric and yarn to make this installation, which was sort of right in front of the front entrance. So as soon as you come into the show, you saw this, and it says it's Craft O'Clock somewhere, has the H&H Americas logo there. I saw a lot of people taking their picture in front of this beautiful installation. And it's so nice to have something sort of like a big splash that, welcomes everybody when they come into the show. And plus, London's awesome. She was also wearing Crocs, platform Crocs that she had crocheted fabric over. I don't know if you saw her in those. First of all, they look so comfortable for walking around a trade show, but they were also super unique. Oh, and I saw that you had Jessica. Is it Jessica who crocheted that vest?
This is my colleague, Kate. I was going to give her one. If you got your badge and registration and received help from one of our staff members, to the joy of just the inspiration that all of you bring, and please don't ever discount how you affect people like non-crafters like me. Kate was one of our staff members who worked on the first edition show with us and was on site. She was a great baker and a good gardener, but she took up crocheting and knitting after last year's show because she just found it so interesting. She started going to meetups. She went to different events in the city of Chicago. And then throughout the year, she taught herself and did her own pattern and her own sizing to create our little H&H sweater vest here. And unfortunately, she's now, I think, going to be committed to make them for the entire team because I think that it's so fabulous.
Yeah, this was great. I love seeing it. I would love to talk a little bit about day 2. So day 2, we had to open the show with a keynote from Kathy Cantamario, who is the Crafty Chica. I knew Kathy's talk was going to be amazing because I've interviewed Kathy before, and she, number one, has been in this industry for a very long time, over 20 years. And number 2, she's just so positive and upbeat and inspirational. So she talked a lot about setting intentions. That was one of her themes, which is to say, like, even if you come to a show like H&H, what do you want to get out of it, and be very specific? Like today, I want to talk to or connect with 3 brands about potential partnerships or whatever, setting those intentions. And then her point was, you will achieve them because you know exactly what it is that you want. And she's really used that very effectively. And she was also very real about things that didn't work. You know, she really wanted to get a card line with Hallmark at one point, and she went out and she did a presentation with them, and then in the end it didn't work out. But it was okay, because later she ended up getting a card line with a different company, and it wasn't just for their sort of Latina kind of Hispanic, you know, sort of division, but it was actually all year round. So it turned out to be even bigger partnership and better partnership for her. But she kind of talked realistically about that roller coaster, but also about how she sort of approaches social media, posts all this every day, why she posts every day, how she kind of deals with that kind of pressure. It was really, really inspirational. So I loved Kathy's talk. That was also a packed room.
Yes, as we kind of bounce all over the place. You know what? Should we take a short little break here? And I'm going to run a 1-minute video.
Sure, let's do it.
And the day one highlight again, because not maybe everyone here was able to be on site, or maybe you didn't see it, or you were on site and you just want to kind of see a real quick recap. Let's share the screen again.
That was great. I love that. And, you know, you can see there's 12 rows of booths. You know, it's a lot to see. And right in the center, one of the things that I love about H&H Americas is we have this newcomers pavilion. And so this is a set of booths that are under $1,000 and they're small, but they're one right next to another. And it's great as a person who's just shopping and looking, because you're going to discover things you haven't seen before. These are small brands, small indie brands, and it kind of wraps all the way around. And it's like one little booth after another. And it's a really lovely, sort of great place to visit. And then right in the center of the show, they've got great placement. And this year we had several companies that started in the Indie Untangled booth in year one, graduate and have bigger standalone booths in year two. And that's exactly what we want. So this is a great opportunity for people who are new to wholesale or new to wholesaling in this sector. And I just love that we have that opportunity for people.
And there were kind of two factions of it, right? So we have working with Lisa within the Untangled, and then also we had the Sewing and Quilt Pavilion, which also provided a different opportunity point. It's similar kind of format, little like almost like half booth kind of size, different kind of package, as a way to make the show approachable for organizations that just needed a different entry into the show, or a different landing pad into the show.
Absolutely.
Partnership with Road to California.
Right, with Road to California. And I especially appreciate, the sewing and quilting brands. Year one, we were very yarn focused because there was an obvious hole in the trade show market. Year two, we really expanded out into the sewing and quilting brands more. And it was great to see more and more of them there. We saw Moda there. I saw some of the sewing machine brands there. Several other fabric companies were there, and it's really, and also designers, quilting designers were there as well. So it was really good to see. And I think that sector is only going to expand as we move the show to May next year. Do you want to just review the new dates so people know and can mark their calendar?
Absolutely. The show will be May 1, 2, 3. So still Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we're sticking with at this point. As we see what the customer and all of you like, it'll be almost a little more than a month earlier. And it's kind of timed well. From the general feedback, we know there's things going on around the industry. We can't avoid every possible thing that could be on the calendar, but it works well with when certain brands are planning to release new lines of fabric next year. Some are planning to do it at the show. The yarn brands coming out of typically at H&H Cologne is where they tend to release their plan for the year. And they also felt that this was good timing for them to sync up as they do their North American launch before the reps hit the road, and bringing the stores together out to see the product, start that order process, and then maybe finalize it when you're in those stores. And it also worked well for the machine side of the industry as well, moving away from some industry corporate events and into a more clear space. We do have a couple of different questions that have rolled in here. I just want to kind of back up the chat here. One was, were most of the attendee buyers of their shops, and were most of the vendors selling wholesale? Would it make sense to first attend before having a booth? For the quilt industry, how do you compare it to quilt market is what the person's asking. Very difficult to compare. And they only say that because it also depends which quilt market. If you're talking historically spring market, or you're talking fall October. Fall October is a larger breadth of quilt suppliers with the whole quilt exhibition. Our event is a more concentrated fashion of market leaders and people willing to look or wanting to look at how to advance their business in a more cross-platform way, because your attendance base is mixed. As Abby brought up earlier, you're looking at yarn stores and quilt shops, educators and content creators, designers, professional makers. It's a much larger audience than is typically found at any of the other shows in America.
Right, I would agree with that. And as far as most of the attendees, yes, there's a lot of retailers there. Retailers are really the heart and soul of a trade show, and there are a lot of retailers there. But as I said earlier, there are people in all different sort of sectors of the industry, all different areas of the industry there too. Would it make sense to walk the show first? It might. I think there were people there walking last year who had booths this year, and I'm sure the same will go for next year. It's always a sort of lower risk way to check out a new show if you're not sure, is to come walk the show, see what it's like in year one, and then come back if you feel like it's appropriate and have a booth in year two.
I would even add to, as much as everyone competes, you're also all friends in the sector. Everybody seems to know everybody. Everyone's got a friend at some place, or you work somewhere before. So better than me or my staff saying why you should buy a booth, because we're supposed to, it's our job. Ask the other exhibitors. You can see the exhibitors online. You can see all the names. You're going to recognize them. I would highly recommend asking them, because we'll put out details. We do have a survey where people are giving us star ratings and how you recommend or what your feedback was in different areas. And we'll continue to publish our message and our voice. But the best is just to ask someone who was there. I would say, when it comes to the part of that question about wholesaling, the show is a B2B event. It is meant for people who make their living in crafts. One question had come up before, like, let's take that Etsy maker, that professional maker. Sometimes it's hard because someone might do it as we'll call it a hobby at first, and maybe they're just making a couple $100 and they don't really have the buying power and the volume yet. But then sometimes you just don't know when that person is going to go from making 5 widgets or 5 kits a year or a month, making $1,000, to all of a sudden running a 6-figure operation, but they're still just using Etsy because it's a great commerce platform, right? Whether you're using, maybe Shopify's another commerce platform. Just because they sell on Etsy doesn't mean it's a hobby or
Absolutely. And can I just talk about Shopify briefly? So we had Ariane folks from AO Lydia. They are a Shopify design firm, and they taught a masterclass. I say they because she brought Helen from her team as well. They taught a Shopify masterclass. We fully booked it right away as soon as it went on sale, those tickets. The masterclasses, just as a reminder, took place on Tuesday, and they're 2.5 hours long. So you're actually doing the work of making those changes on your Shopify site to improve it while you were in class. And we ended up opening a few more slots off the wait list, but I told Ariane, I said, we could have booked that class 4 times over. So we are going to do more Shopify content in the future, but really, it was incredible. She's an incredible teacher. She really is the premier person to teach this content. And it was amazing to see everybody there actually, making those changes and doing that work in the class. I also got great feedback on Gail Zucker's photography class. So she teaches you how to use your phone to take really good professional pictures that you can use for all sorts of visual assets, whether it's your website, Instagram, social media, elsewhere. I got incredible feedback about that. And again, in 2.5 hours, you're actually taking photos while you're there, sort of figuring out the settings, figuring out how to do it. So I thought that was great. And I think we're going to expand that masterclass program in the future, because this was the first time we've done it. Weren't sure, are people going to come in a day early? Are they going to pay a little bit more? Do they want to be in class for that long? And the answer all around was absolutely yes.
I agree. And a common conversation I was having during the event with people, when we talk about all the great ideas that people share, like one of them in the chat, Laura, I want to say we see that there, bringing in the topic of AI into the space, like how it's going to impact this world, whether it's sizing patterns, copywriting, image generation. We can probably do multiple hours of talk shows on that whole topic alone. But yes, that is still topical. It's highly topical now. I imagine it'll be highly topical then. But one of the things was also looking at our product innovation cycle. When we have these great ideas, like, oh, let's add this to the program. That's great, but it takes us 12 months to get back to trying something. Or like, hey, should it be Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, this, whatever days of the weeks of the show. We can only change it once a year, and we have to wait a whole year to see if it was a good change, bad change, or
Right.
not enough change. Even down to our first year, we did a 2-day show, or 2 days and a party. And that was like a way big firehouse. I've never seen a show in our first edition where you literally had to tell people, go home because we need to take down the booths. This year, we expanded to 3 days. And it seemed very nicely. All 3 days were well attended. We went to 6 o'clock. Next year, do we scoot it up to 5 o'clock? Maybe, but then yet from 5 to 6, everybody was at the bar because it was happy hour every day. So
One of the things I loved about that, right in the afternoon, there was a bar on the show floor, so everybody can kind of have a glass of wine or have a beer and kind of walk around and relax, a little bit more of a party atmosphere. And the last day, it was actually an ice cream party, so there was ice cream right on the show floor, and it's just so nice to be able to have that sort of, I don't know, way to relax and almost be able, among friends. So I loved that. And I wanted to talk, if we can, too, about Leanne Presley from Stitchcraft Marketing. So she has been working on a research study. It's a B2B research study. She's really looking at craft businesses and their sentiment toward the sort of, business environment right now. She presented those findings on stage, on our main stage. It was really open to everyone, no extra charge. It was packed. I was sitting on the floor because there was not enough space. But she really did a great job presenting it with the research partner that she'd worked with to do this research. And I think she will be releasing like a 1-page sort of executive summary of the findings. So if you're interested in that, I'm sure it will be available sometime in the coming week or two.
And on that, so all of the classes, all of the keynote sessions and all the masterclass sessions are being uploaded this week to the platform. So you'll be able to find them under the on-demand section. You can sort, right now you can find the 2022 sessions there from the keynote sessions and the main stage sessions. And this will be added there. You could sort by year, you could search by title. And then this whole week, every day, there's classes that we have on this platform all week. We have some live, we have some that I'm calling replay, where we're just going to replay for the first time a session that was at the event. So maybe you couldn't attend because you were working in a booth, or you were unable to physically get to the show this year. You can still enjoy that content, and there's still ability to ask some Q&A. For the Abby, just as people have written in here, the Shopify class and the photography class were amazing. I could have spent all day in each of them. Thank you for the opportunity. So we'll make
absolutely.
sure.
I heard that same feedback. They were absolutely great. Deborah wanted to know whether booth setup on Tuesday is the same time as the master classes. The answer to that question is unfortunately yes, because we just don't have time to be able to do all of those things. It's difficult when you're setting up your booth to also be able to attend classes. but maybe with some advanced planning, it's possible. I will say that the show floor is open to help set up your booth the day before if you did want to come in early. Is that right? So you could come in Monday and do some setup.
And because Abby and I have not even done our own internal, let's digest our
We
notes,
haven't.
goods, bads, uglies, repeat, don't repeat.
This is the first time we're talking since the show.
Yes. I actually have on my notes to suggest, why can't we do a master class on Friday after or on the Saturdays? Like same type of thing, coming a day early, maybe you want to stay a day late type of thing. So I don't know. These are all
We're
ideas. Yes,
flexible.
we're looking at them.
One of the things I think I heard from a lot of people, besides the sort of overall theme, this show feels modern, which I thought was a great comment. The second thing that I heard too was that people felt listened to. So of course, we can't accommodate absolutely every idea and suggestion, but we want to hear all the ideas and suggestions, and a lot of them do get incorporated into the show. And I think that that's kind of wonderful. And so if you have thoughts about instructors, about how we could structure things, about masterclass, all of that stuff, we definitely want to hear your thoughts. You know, we are an open book, and you can certainly email us or get in contact anytime. I also wanted to talk before we run out of time about the third day keynote. So this was Friday morning. It was kind of a neat format. So it was what we called a fireside chat. So I was on stage with Justine Tu. If you don't know who she is the co-founder, along with her husband, of a crochet kit company called the Woobles. And they have just had astronomical trajectory of success. And she has such an interesting perspective, because she actually came from working in user experience design at Google and got really stressed out. They made her into a manager. She didn't like being a manager and felt like had a real shot to her confidence, started crocheting, and then left Google. And her husband was a Wall Street trader. He left that, and they came together to make this crochet kit company. And what she's done is she's applied user experience design to crochet. And I crocheted a Wooble, which I brought with me. He's a little lion named Sebastian. And in the process of crocheting it, and I'm a terrible crocheter, he came out perfectly, which is only a testament to her directions. What I saw was how different what she's doing as far as instructions are concerned and materials to almost any other crochet experience I've ever had. And so we really talked about what is user experience design and how can you bring it to bear on craft. And I think there were lessons there for literally any kind of business. It was just very interesting. And she's also somebody who doesn't like to be the center of attention. You know, she doesn't want to be the face of the company. And she talked a little bit too about, you know, having to kind of get over that and be able to, at least in some way, you know, be on Instagram. They were on Shark Tank. She talked about the Shark Tank experience. So I thought it was great. And what was nice about it too, is it wasn't just like a keynote lecture. It was more casual. We were sitting in chairs and it was more, you know, of a conversation together. And we had some amazing audience questions as well, including one person who's a retailer. Okay, this was the smartest question. She says, would the Woobles consider releasing an exclusive kit, like a different animal, maybe from any of the other animals they've already made, because they're amigurumi animals, that would only be available for local retailers? In other words, you may be a massive Woobles fan and collected them all, but if you want to get, you know, this shark or whatever it is, you have to go to your local retailer in order to get it. And Justine was very honest. She's like, I've actually never been asked that question. That's very interesting. So that's the kind of thing that can happen when you come to a show. It's like, oh, here's a constituency I haven't really necessarily spoken to. And it was great. I loved it. So anyway, that's my feeling about our third day keynote. All of our keynotes this year were top notch.
And Abby, why don't we give ourselves a moment just to kind of look through our notes. I have a 50-second day 2 highlight.
Oh yeah, let's do that.
So we'll do that one. It's not very long. And
Sure.
To let everyone know, we do not have the day 3 highlight reel finished yet. So we will be posting it this week. There's a lot of homework and cleanup that has to be done now as you kind of take all of the photos and all these videos. But I'm going to share my screen and share this short video. As I said, it's only 50 seconds, so it's not very long.
Security expert Dave Hatter of Intrust IT said, don't rely on AI to do your job hunting for you. Says tests show that AI sometimes generates facts that are untrue. Sometimes it quotes hallucinates.
That was great. And I wanted to also say, Craft Industry Alliance is going to be releasing some of the audio recordings from the keynotes and things like that as podcasts from the State of the Industry panel, from the Woogles conversation, et cetera, as podcasts. And there was a question in the chat, Darrin, will they also be available on the H&H Connect platform to watch?
Yes, again, yep. So today, tomorrow, my homework is to take all of the video content that we captured from our keynote sessions and the main stage sessions. Those are the two that we did capture this year that will be put onto the platform.
Absolutely. Okay, so they're there. One thing I would say, so we had demos in our booth. We had members. I just put out a call. Any members who are at the show would like to do a demonstration in the Craft Industry Alliance booth, we'd love to have you. We had one demo, actually she did two different days, from Christy Troxel from Ritzy Parties. So she did a demo. The first day it was resin jewelry, and the second day it was making bracelets with beautiful trim. And the thing about Christy is she is really more on the mixed media side. She used to go to Creativation, CHA, that kind of show for many, many years. And she came and did these demos, and it was fascinating to watch. So she opened up all of the resin materials, and she had these little like nail dryers out and all this stuff. There was a line immediately, and there was a line the entire time. She's actually stayed an extra hour with that one. There was a long line the entire time that she was doing this, which to me really proves the fact that people are hungry for all kinds of crafts. And these were retailers. These were all sorts of people who were there. They want to be able to do all sorts of different kinds of crafts, and they were super excited to try resin. So that was a very interesting indicator to me.
Well, and at the end of the day, I'm going to go out on the limb and say everyone who's there, and particularly everyone who's in this business, you're crafters. Your customers are crafters. And there's only some point you need to maybe take a break from the primary craft and shift to a secondary craft. Or as I was speaking with one of our sewing machine manufacturers, and his frustration is you can't do his craft on a plane. Can't do it if you're on a train. You can't do it if you're on a bus. Can't do it if you're on a subway. But those typical, let's say, sewing, quilt making crafters do travel sometimes, and it's just really difficult to take that sewing machine with you.
That's why you got to do English paper piecing. And we actually had an English paper piecing demo in our booth as well. So yeah, absolutely. And one other thing I wanted to say that was really fun, I'm hoping to see the picture of this. So the morning the show opened, there was a ribbon cutting. We had the mayor there, the mayor of Rosemont. Rosemont is its own like jurisdiction, not part of the city of Chicago, even though it's sort of in the middle there. But and he came and he did this. We had this big giant ribbon with the H&H logo and these scissors. Do you want to talk about the scissors briefly?
Well, I'm scanning because I actually saw the photo. And I'm looking for it right now, actually. Yes, Famore Scissors was quite kind and made us our own set of scissors. Hold on. Wait, here's our, here, let me just share.
Think like a giant check, but like giant scissors, and they were actually real scissors. So that's Famore, there's the mayor on the left. And that's Brent from Famore, who makes the scissors. Anyway, so it was very fun to see. And it was very exciting, like way to open the show. But we're getting a whole lot of photos.
Now the photos are out of sequence here.
Oh, okay. Anyway, but you get a little taste of what it was like. But I thought it was a really nice way to open the show to have the mayor there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's nice. And it also, what I find personally gratifying is that the city recognizes, or the town, city of Rosemont, they know that we're there. We had road banners. We have a digital sign outside the building. You know, the mayor's willing to take time out of his schedule to come over and thank us for being in his town, right? For being in their
Absolutely.
hotels and being in their restaurants.
And we're going to be back in Chicago next year. For anyone who's wondering if the location is moving, no, it is back in Chicago. There are a lot of very good things about Chicago. One of them is that there's direct flights from many, many places. Chicago is a hub that way, including from Europe. And Darrin, I know you had mentioned to me about the German government's acknowledgement of the show. Can you say something about that?
Yeah, so some of the things as we kind of come up on the hour here, like where we're looking to go forward in the future, the dates, as you said, it's technically Rosemont, right? But it's Chicago Airport. It's just outside or just over the line as far as how the areas butt up against each other. It's important to us for a few reasons because one, it's ease of access. If you're driving from the Midwest, it's really a nice central destination. You can go around downtown. You don't have to go through downtown. O'Hare Airport, I think it's 4 or 5 on the global airports of the world. As Abby said, that is just easily approachable from almost any point on the planet without changing planes. Also from a hotel price point, we have some hotels that we recommend that are in our hotel block. This year, they're like 158 to maybe just under 200-ish. But if you need to, you can go a little further down the road and you can find $75, $80 kind of room nights. So you can find something that fits your budget and appetite. But as we go into 2024, Initiative Handarbeit, our partner in Germany that's behind the H&H Cologne show, submitted the paperwork and has received approval to form a formal German pavilion. So that means next year, the German government will help underwrite the cost for the German national companies to have it's a specific booth design. There's hostesses, there's food and beverage, and those companies get financial subsidies from the German government to grow their export sales to go abroad. So and they do this around the world in many different industry sectors, but it's been really exciting to see that they've picked this kind of a sector, which compared to the entire German economy might be considered small. And that they still found that it's important to help their countries grow. And this is quite common. Many countries around the world offer this kind of services. And even for everyone saying, well, why doesn't America do this? We do. It's called the STEP program, State Trade Export Program. It's not as kind of a bundled as one German government, one German pavilion, but you actually as suppliers and manufacturers can access funds to help you come to H&H Cologne. And so that's kind of, if you want, reach out to us, we'll go into those details because some of you are not suppliers, but there are ways from both ways, but it really does put the mark on the importance of the show to the industry.
Absolutely. And one of the things I think is also super unique about H&H is that it is this international show. So you're not just coming and seeing US vendors. There are people there from all over the world. There's a really strong European presence. The show has a different flavor. As a result, there's a sense of discovery of things that you wouldn't normally see just, in a US only show. So I love that aspect of it. And I'm so glad that, the German government is investing even further in that. And I'm excited to see what that pavilion looks like next year because they do it up nicely in Cologne.
Yes,
I need
they
to go to Cologne, but I've heard there's like food and beverages. It's a whole different sort of style of trade show.
Well, and I think it's the part that you were just mentioning, like the idea that the show is into, like it's the complete ecosystem.
Yeah.
So we have Turkish mills that are showcasing the supply side of the business in meeting rooms. You have you have importers, you have distributors, you have kind of this mix. So sometimes for some people, as much business as you might want to do into the aisle, right, to the traditional retailer, you're also doing it across the aisle or across a couple aisles, right? Because I know certain companies were doing business 4 or 5 aisles apart, but he wrote a very large order on the last day of the show with one of the distributors, like into the thousands of units was being placed because they just happen to be face to face and they've been not being able to get on the phone and not being able to get to do it. But Friday morning, went to the booth, he was like 500 of these, 200 of these, 600 of those, 2 of these, 20 of these, and across the board. And the other part that I think that makes H&H unique is that the types of businesses, independent yarn shops, independent retails, independent quilt shops, and yes, the mass market stores there as well. So it really helps those kinds of suppliers make that investment to make a really high quality exhibit for everyone to enjoy because they can service both of their audiences and their entire business needs.
Absolutely. So this has been great. We're right up against time. I first just want to say thank you everyone for attending the digital after show. It's kind of fun to do this and sort of wrap up and think through, process all that went on during this incredibly busy couple of days. So we really appreciate that. As I said, we are open to your thoughts, your ideas. We will be forming a committee later this summer if you're interested in helping to plan the education that will take place at the show in May. I head up that sort of effort, and we would love to have you as part of that committee. Look in the Craft Industry Alliance newsletter when I announce the openings for that. But there's lots of ways for you to get involved in helping to shape next year's show, and we would love your input.
Absolutely. And there's also committees if you're on the supply side, there's committees for the content creator influencer group kind of people.
Yeah.
Different ways, but we try to give each of the different sectors that we can kind of bundle a way to have a voice to provide feedback of what can we do, at least to listen, and we do our best to implement them all. Everyone should be getting an email today with the schedule for the week. Today is our kickoff session, as you all have been here and we've heard. But tomorrow there's another session 11. That's a replay session. Then on Wednesday, there's a live session at 11. There's a replay session at 1. On the 29th, there's a live session and 2 replay sessions. And on the 30th, on Friday, we have a live session in the morning. So please keep coming back to the platform. You can see it under the schedule events. We'll list the live events and these replays, and then all the other content you'll find under the on-demand later this week.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much. And we will certainly be in touch sometime soon. Thank you, Darrin.
Yes, thank you, Abby. Have a great day, everyone.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye now.
Have a great day.